Welcome to Mysteries to Die For. I am TG Wolff and I'm here with Jack, my piano player and producer. This is a podcast where we combine storytelling with very original music to put you at the heart of a mystery. All stories are structured to challenge you to beat the detective to the solution. Jack and I perform these live, front to back, no breaks, no fakes, no retakes. So check out our social media. It is alive and kicking. On Instagram, you can find us at Mysteries to Die For. That's all spelled out. And on Facebook, you can find us at M, the letter 2, D, the letter 4, podcast. Follow us to keep up to date with the pulse of the show and happenings and Jack's special postings. And then explore our website, m2d4podcast.com. That's M, the letter 2, D, the letter 2, M, the number 2, D, the number 4, podcast.com for all of our episodes and our authors. The rules for law and order create the boundaries for civil coexistence, and ideally the backdrops for individuals, families, and companies to grow and thrive. Breaking these rules puts civil order at risk, and while murder is the big daddy of crimes, codified ordinances across municipal divisions, counties, states, and countries show the nearly endless ways there are to create mayhem. This episode, we put our detective skills to the test. This is Season 8, Anything But Murder. And this is Episode 19, where body snatching is the featured crime. This is Part 2 of Have You Seen This Body? By me, TG Wolff. So what are we doing for baseline? Are we keeping the same one from...
No, we're cool.
We're
going to 327.
327
which
on
is,
the old Casio.
Which is bottle blow.
All right. Before we jump in, I'm going to give you a little recap of I guess it was 2 weeks ago.
It was 2 whole weeks to the day that we recorded this.
We recorded it about 5 minutes ago.
No. Don't give it away. Our secret recipe of us recording these early? They can't know. It ruins the illusion.
So in part 1, Reginald Couture, Reggie to his friends, died from cancer, because this is anything but murder, and was buried in the tradition of Bobigny, Louisiana. 48 hours later, he returned to Bobigny wearing the scrubs and lab coat of Dr. Sanford Elias, and missing his right hand. His body had been taken from the grave by 3 men, a boss and 2 laborers. Reggie's body and soul were found at the home of Kelsey Luminaire. So while Mystic is interviewing Dr. Elias, Deputy Emmanuel Cortez calls with news. Reggie was gone. Now, part 2. Dead Cellar. Mystic drove back to Bobigny, Dr. Sanford Elias following closely behind. Whether he knew it or not, Elias was a son of Bobigny. His grandmother was one of Bobigny's brightest stars. One daughter, Elias's mother, left for college and never returned. The other stayed. It was her daughter who lived in the family house a few blocks off the square. Mystic had called ahead to his office, reaching Deputy Marguerite DePaul. She would contact Elias's cousin, where he would hopefully be welcome for the night. Their little caravan pulled down the long driveway of the Luminaire home. The 2-story house was graceful and charming, with wrought iron trim on the porches and balconies. The front door opened, and a sheepish Emmanuel stepped out, followed by Father Raymond with his arm around Kelsey. When Mystic climbed out of the car, Kelsey flew down the stairs to him. "It's all my fault. Emmanuel told me not to leave, but I did. I just went to the store. I didn't think a few minutes would matter. And, okay, yeah, I was a little freaked out being at home alone with the zombie." The young woman's distress was suffocating here. "Easy, Lexi," Mystic said soothingly. "We will find Reggie. He is looking for you just as hard as we are looking for him." "Zombie?" Elias asked incredulously as he joined the little group. Dr. Sanford Elias, this is Deputy Manuel Cortez, Father Amon, and Kelsey Luminaire. Dr. Elias is Senora Corredora's grandson. Emmanuel gave a small bow. Your grandmother brought me into the world. It's a pleasure to meet you. Thank you, the doctor responded automatically, and then turned his attention to Kelsey. What did you mean about a zombie? Kelsey looked to Mystic, a child wary of telling a grown-up secret. Mystic walked to the shade of an oak tree, drawing the party with him. Dr. Elias, when Reggie Couture was taken from his grave, he was newly buried. His soul had not yet left this world. He found his body in your laboratory and reclaimed it. It was he, not your students, who took your coat and pants. Elias furrowed his brow. How long has he been dead for? 2 days, Father Amon offered. He died in his bed and was buried at sunset 2 days later. I consecrated the grave and put him in the ground myself. As I thought. Impossible, Elias said, confident in his statement. Deprived of oxygen for that amount of time, the brain would be incapable of functioning. Not to mention the liver and kidneys would have started decaying, plus the embalming fluid would have made it impossible for his heart to work. We do not embalm in Bombini, Amon said. It's a tradition of respect. Regardless of embalming, Mystic said, you are correct that Reggie's body was beyond returning to life. The cancer destroyed it, freeing his soul. Elias crossed his arms. Superiority radiated. So what's with the zombie then? Reggie's soul possessed his body, Amon explained. He brought it back to us. Take us to where you last saw Reggie, Mystic said to Kelsey, preventing the intrusion into her talent. She was not yet comfortable with who she was, and Elias was an outsider. In the back, she said, leading the way along a stone path behind her grandfather's house. Father Amon put him in one of the root cellars. I was able to connect with him. Amon could do more, apparently, than just see souls. He understood that you were working on his behalf, and he indicated he would wait. He asked to see his wife. I don't understand any of this, Elias shouted from the back. No one responded. Kelsey pointed to the aluminum doors angled that led beneath the house. I wouldn't let Father Amon close it. I didn't think he'd leave. Emmanuel rested his hand on her shoulder. Don't beat yourself up, Lexi. This isn't your fault. He pulled one door open and then the other. It is, she said. He came to me. Mystic approved. Kelsey was accepting the role she'd been selected for. This is your first time, and this is an unusual situation. Use it to learn.
It's her fault. I'm so sorry. Woman, you have a zombie who was murdered. Not murdered. You're right. It's anything but murder. You have a zombie who was taken out of the ground. We know that by a third party. Party being more than one person. What? You dumbass? So sorry. So sorry.
You are not approving of
No, it's her
Kelsey's
fault.
handling.
No, you do this in all of your stories. You're like, this person screwed up badly. Oh, sweetheart, it's not your fault. Don't beat yourself. Dumbass, it's your fault.
Okay, I retract the last one. Emmanuel laid his head on her shoulder. Yeah, Lexi, it's all your fault. Learn.
Thank you. Jeez. No, in all your stories, you're so nice to the dumbasses who are just, I'm
going to have to fix that next time.
Nah, you're okay. It's one of your tropes.
It's one of my tropes.
It's because you never want to be mean to your own characters.
Oh,
even though you have to make them do actions, which of course perpetuates the story.
Yeah.
But really, you have a zombie and you didn't lock your house up. You just hoped. I was like, I know they won't leave. What?
Well, maybe she didn't think zombies could climb stairs.
Well, even...
I will not do that in my next story.
Also,
I will be mean to all of my characters.
It also seems to me as though it is clear someone did this. Not just because, like, I'm trying to think of where the character's mindset is, and I feel like the characters are aware that someone has done this.
Yes.
Maybe they're not aware that someone is after him.
Yeah.
Because now it's clear. But just knowing that someone did this to him would make me believe I personally would not leave him unattended.
I'd have a hard time staying in my house if I knew a zombie was in the basement.
Now, I'll admit, I also probably wouldn't leave the zombie alone with the one person who's most uncomfortable with him.
Yeah.
That was another...
What was Father Eamon thinking leaving?
Right? I say that as if it wasn't your choice. As if you didn't choose all of these options. All right, I'll shut up. Just criticizing your story to you. Anyway.
No, you're right. I want it to be meaner next time.
Be mean to your characters. Kill them.
Okay, where are we? Emmanuel shrugged as Kelsey and Eamon followed Miskidick into the cellar. Oh, I missed a line. First time doing what? Elias asked. Why will you people not explain anything? Emmanuel shrugged as Kelsey and Eamon followed Mystic into the cellar. You wouldn't believe it. By the way, your cousin Reagan is expecting you for dinner. She said she'd hold it if you were late. Reagan? Elias shook his head. I haven't seen her since we were kids. Answer me one question. When the deputy nodded, he plunged forward. How old is the lieutenant? Emmanuel laughed. I'm not even sure he knows. He descended the steps, leaving the doctor to follow, or not. The cellar was the size of a small bedroom, cool and rich with the smell of the earth. One side was lined with shelves, bowing under the weight of canned preserves. Dried herbs hung from the ceiling at the far end, contributing their unique scent to that of the earth. On the last side was a canvas cot, simple and unadorned. Father and I left him here, Kelsey said, indicating the cot. It felt wrong leaving him with nothing, even though I do understand he couldn't eat or drink. We didn't close one of the doors, Eamon admitted. Kelsey was uncomfortable with it, and I didn't see the harm. Go ahead, Jack, say something.
Dumbass.
Kelsey dropped her face into her hands. I shouldn't have left. He followed me, didn't he? Father Eamon put his arm around her. If he had, he would have followed you back, too. I'll trace the most direct route, Emmanuel said. I already did it once, and I didn't find any sight of him. Do it again, Mystic said. I'll go to his home. Perhaps he wanted to see his wife, and she drew him there. Kelsey and I will stay here, Eamon said. If he is coming to her, staying put is our best option. Very good. Dr. Elias will stay with you. I'm coming with you, Elias announced stubbornly, and you're going to explain a few things along the way. Mystic studied the man whose aura was in chaos as the concepts of reality were routed. All right, but be careful what you ask. Once you know, there is no unknowing. Dead Sweep. Elias waited impatiently as Mystic cleaned the passenger seat of his car. Work papers, disposable coffee cups, and crockery long supposed to be returned to their owners were his co-pilot. He wiped the seat with a partially used napkin, scattering crumbs. Voila! Ready for you. Elias climbed in and secured a seatbelt. He sat in silence as Mystic drove into the neighborhoods of Bonbini. Signs posted in storefronts and on power poles asked, Have you seen this body? Call the sheriff's office. The large picture showed a smiling Reggie in his best suit, the same one he'd been buried in. Can you explain how a soul can reclaim a body? Elias spat the question out. I can share my understanding, but it is from tradition, the learning passed through my family and my own experiences. It is not fact as you would see it, Doctor. Mystic provided the same explanation he had to Kelsey. His word choices were different, as was the level of detail. Elias was a 30-something educated physician who cultivated his own talent, knowingly or not. He would have found the explanation given to Kelsey trite. If you can accept that each living being is both body and soul, then the concept isn't all that difficult. Isn't all that difficult, Elias echoed on a chuckle. You want me to believe that Raji's soul found his body, slipped it on like a suit, and then walked it over 120 miles home. No one seeing it, no one calling the police. I never said no one saw him, Mystic said. I only know that his body and your coat shared the same space. It is my presumption that that was at your laboratory, and that he arrived at Luminaire's home. Elias guffawed. It's unbelievable. Mystic glanced at his passenger. His elbow rested on the passenger door, his chin on fist. Part of Elias wanted to believe it was unbelievable. The other part knew differently. You see into people's bodies, Mystic said. Elias jumped, his startled gaze rocketing to Mystic. Physical part of your studies came easy to you because you could see the problem. When Elias didn't comment, Mystic pressed on. You can tell when patients lie because you see the reality. Likely you ordered x-rays or MRIs because it was expected of you, not because you needed it. His eyes wide, Elias could only stammer. How did you know? Mystic never spoke of his talent and rarely of others. It was his burden to bear. Your grandmother, she was the same. You have inherited her talent. She wasn't a doctor. Not by medical standards, but she did doctor people in the truest sense of the word. Some called her a medicine woman and others a shaman. The word didn't matter to her. It didn't change what she did. Mystic glanced at Elias again. He was listening. Emmanuel said she brought him into the world. What he didn't say was that his birth was difficult. Your grandmother saw his mother in the market, saw into her swollen belly and knew birth would be tenuous. She went to Emmanuel's parents at induced labor that night. Emmanuel was born healthy, and his mother was able to survive. Elias turned on the cultured driveway, maneuvering in silence to the parking lot. When he opened the door, Elias grabbed his forearm. I've never told anyone what I can see. Thought it made me a freak. He laughed then with an edge of hysteria. I mean, who can see inside a body? A child of Sophia Corradora. With a nod of reassurance, Mystic slipped from his grip. Come on, let's see if Reggie has returned home.
You gotta start writing names you can pronounce.
It's not that I couldn't pronounce it, it's that I suddenly was like, wait, did I give her a different first name before and not catch it? Corradora. I can say that.
Sophia Corradora.
Sophia Corradora.
Yeah, Sophia.
My goodness. One of the Bobigny's youngest musicians sat on the porch, fiddle to his chin, his bow stroking the strings to sing sweetly. Hello, Mystic, he greeted without dropping a note. Have you seen Reggie? He asked. No, sir. Word's out that his body left Lux's house, so I've kept my eye out. He hasn't come this way. I'll let you know if he does. Mystic rang the front doorbell. Heidi Couture herself answered. She looked as though she hadn't slept since their last conversation. Mystic, I wasn't expecting you. Come in. The bow of his head, Mystic stepped into the large foyer. Heidi Couture, this is Dr. Sanford Elias. He is assisting me with locating Reggie. She led them into the parlor. Would you like something to drink? If you're hungry, there are sandwiches made. Thank you, but we will not be long. Has Reggie come home? Mystic asked. Elias stood behind the new widow, staring intently at her back. His expression was one of puzzlement. He hasn't, Mystic. I was steadying myself to go see him when your deputy called. The anger from yesterday remained, but it took a back seat to worry. Why do you think he came here? Father Raymond connected with him. Reggie wanted to see you. When he walked away from Lux's cellar, it made sense that you would be his destination. Heidi went to the wet bar and poured herself a drink. It's for my nerves, she said to the men watching her. Elias crossed the room and took the glass from her hand. I am a doctor. Would you mind if I do an exam? Heidi stepped away from him. I assure you I am not usually this much of a mess. Even though Reggie was sick for a long time, his death still came as a shock. We thought there was more time. If Sebastian were here, I don't know what I would do. Mystic, please search the plantation. And if you find Reggie... She drifted off. Is your brother here? Mystic asked. Perhaps he could help? She shook her head. He went out after breakfast. He's looking at acquiring a new business and is spending the day with a consultant. I can help. The offer was made reluctantly. No, please stay here and enjoy the music. Mystic read her discomfort at the idea of discovering her husband's body. We'll start in the house and then move to the outbuildings. The cabins are empty, she said. We stopped letting them when Reggie became sick. You may come across our handyman, Digger. Heidi folded into the corner of the couch and looked out the window to the boy and his violin. I do believe I will miss this when the morning ends. The music feels like it wraps around me to keep me safe. Music is indeed magic. With a little bow to Heidi, Mystic turned to Elias. I do not want to pull my deputies away from their assignments. You'll have to help me. Let's start at the top floor and work our way down. I don't think Reggie would climb the stairs, but then I did not think he would have come up out of the cellar. See, even Mystic didn't think he'd climb stairs. Reggie Couture had bought the aging plantation on the edge of town, and Heidi had revived it, restoring both the architecture and the grounds. The attic was hot, the air humid and heavy with the scent of mold, but not of decomposing flesh. The nooks and crannies were filled with storage boxes and dusty wooden furniture. Mystic and Elias looked under the coverings and in the larger spaces, finding nothing to indicate Reggie had been there. The second floor housed 6 bedrooms and the same number of bathrooms. The master bedroom had been the marriage suite. The untidiness of life indicated Heidi used that bedroom. The adjacent one had the smell of a hospital. The bed was neatly made, but an IV stand was near the bed and a litany of prescription bottles clustered on a low dresser. He died here, Elias said. Yes, and he hasn't returned. Onward, Mystic said. The next bedrooms were guest rooms, with each neat as a pin and ready to serve. The last one, the room farthest from the master, was Sebastian's room. Clothes were draped over chair backs, the bed was unmade, shoes laid in a corner where they had likely been kicked. Mystic had been ready to move on when Elias called him back. This fellow's in some financial straits. He shuffled through papers, picked up from a roll-top desk. These papers are to file for bankruptcy. Mystic looked over his shoulder. It's a valuation of assets, he said. Sebastian said the carnival was on hiatus because of Reggie. More likely it's because he couldn't pay his bills. Elias set the papers back on the desk. Reggie isn't here. No, Mystic agreed. To the first floor. The rooms were a maze, each of them neat and devoid of hiding places. Still, they opened every closet and looked under every tablecloth. Satisfied the house was empty, Mystic locked the back and side doors. He explained to Heidi it was to force Reggie through a single entry point, which should be easier to monitor. The grounds were immense, with multiple barns and old quarters. Mystic worried that by the time they finished, they would need to start over, as Reggie could have walked in while their backs were turned. Reggie and Heidi had invested in the old slave quarters. Reborn as historic tourism, the cabins were top-rated accommodations on TripAdvisor. All the cabins were unlocked, but dark, as if tucked in for the night. The lights worked, but the heat and AC was off. The refrigerators were turned off and the doors were secured open. All cabins, except the last, the one closest to the surrounding woods. This one had a recent guest. Do you think Reggie was here? Elias asked, studying the bed. If he was not alone, Mystic said, indicating the galley kitchen and the dirty plate. Elias was the closer and went to investigate. He opened the refrigerator, pulled a jar out, and read, Aunt Tilly's jam, strawberry rhubarb. Leftovers in unmarked containers, assortment of drinks. Closing the refrigerator, Elias opened the top cabinets. Snacks, simple supplies, nothing you can make into a dinner. Smell the air, Mystic said, and then did the same. Do you detect an odor of a body? It has only been a few days, but Reggie was not embalmed. The tissues will start decomposing soon, but no, Elias said. I don't smell anything that would make me think a newly dead body was here. I agree. Mystic opened the door to a small closet. One button-down shirt hung, a lonely soldier in a field of empty hangers. A duffel bag sat on the floor. Mystic pulled it close for inspection. T-shirts, work pants, underclothes. Elias opened drawers and doors. Whoever it is didn't unpack. It's as if he's all ready to leave at a moment's notice. Mystic put the duffel back. A squatter, likely. What do we have there? A backpack, but it's just full of odd junk. Maybe it's a homeless person. Elias set the treasures out on the table. A small plastic figure of a saint, polished rock, a soda pop top, an artificial flower. Mystic recognized the cash for what it was. Those came from Reggie's casket. They're tokens. Elias froze. Should I put them back? It feels wrong. For now, Mystic said. Put it back where you found it. Perhaps Miss Heidi has some notion of who is living on her property. After a final look about the cabin, Mystic ushered Elias out and closed the door behind them. The path back to the main house took them past a large barn. The sputter of a motor polluted the peaceful setting, as did the Cajun cursing that followed. Dead Digger. A whitewashed building originally built for oxen was now home to the machinery that replaced the beasts. The smell of oil and fuel displaced any leftover sense of animals and hay. The large place was neatly organized and surprisingly clean. The stalls now were home to different lawnmowers, a small excavator, a gator, and such. The door to a side room was ajar, with the doorknob acting as a hanger for a workman's shirt. Half the main area had been a loft overhanging, with a few boxes and mechanical parts lining the edge. Music came from the speaker on the workbench next to where Jean-Claude Perez worked on a piece of machinery. The lean and lanky man with strong arms and hands, the Bobani native, was known as Digger. The childhood nickname came from his talent for digging up lost items. The treasure hunter's aura was a dark gray marbled with one of the most vivid blues Mystic had ever seen. Digger was adventurous by nature and loved nothing more than a challenge. His current one was getting the better of him. He swore when the motor on the riding lawnmower sputtered without catching. "Digger!" Mystic called out, raising his voice to be heard. The handyman startled and spun. "Mystic," he said the man's name with the wariness one has approaching a stake. "You scared the bejesus out of me." "Have you tried kicking it?" Mystic asked with a small smile designed to disarm. Digger snorted. That's the next step according to the repair manual. "I heard Reggie's back. You here to talk to Mrs. Couture?" "Who's this?" He looked the doctor up and down. "Dresses kind of fancy for a deputy." "This is Dr. Elias," Mystic said. "He's helping to find Reggie. We've already been up to the big house. Take it you haven't seen Reggie around?" "No, I haven't," he said, turning back to the lawnmower and his work. Mystic spoke over the clatter. "One of the cabins has someone in it." "They're closed up," Digger said. "Turned everything off, rigged the refrigerator so kids couldn't get stuck inside." "The utilities are still on?" Mystic asked. "Yes, sir. There's no real way to turn them off. I check on them every few days, making sure nothing feral's found its way inside. If somebody's in there, they ain't been there long. After I finish this, I'll go run 'em off." "Aren't you worried he could be dangerous?" Elias asked. Digger shrugged his shoulders dismissively. "Nah, probably just kids, looking for a private place to be kids." "You've been working for Coutures how long?" Mystic asked. Maybe 5 years," he said. "Started with the odd job. Mr. C made me a bona fide employee a few years ago, mostly here at the plantation, helping Mrs. C lifting her heavy plants. Sometimes he had me lend a hand at a factory, but mostly here. Mystic studied the man, working to avoid eye contact. Can you think of any reason someone would steal Reggie's body? Just the usual ones, he said. Could be someone thought he was buried with valuables. He was a rich man. That'd be the easy answer. It would, Mystic agreed, but I don't think that's our case. Any other conjectures? Well, Digger said, dragging it out. Could be someone believes the babble at the bar, that everything Mr. C touched turned to gold. What's that guy's name? King Midas, Elias supplied. The Midas touch. That's the man. Could be a voodoo priest or priestess in need of bones. This is Bobigny. If that was the case, with Reggie walking away, someone's bound to be disappointed. What do you think of Heidi Couture? Mystic asked. Oh, I think the world of her. Digger gave up on the lawnmower and turned, his body language now open and uncomplicated. Sweet woman in such a way with plants. She gave me a rose bush for my mom's birthday with 30 blooms on it. Mystic, Digger said, dropping his voice. I think she's sick. It's more than Mr. C's death. Elias started to comment, but Mystic cut him off.
Stan's poisoning her, clearly. Like, oh my gosh, I figured that out at day one. That's right, because I'm awesome, but I didn't say anything about it, because I am a good podcaster who doesn't spoil things for his listeners.
How about her brother, Sebastian? A waste.
Oh, his name is not Stan. My bad. Sebastian.
A waste, if you ask me. For the first time, Digger displayed an aggressive emotion. Walks around all plump and pompous. Be living in a gutter if his sister wasn't so good. What did Reggie think of Sebastian? Digger chuckled. Can't say the man confided like that in his handyman. But if body language is anything to go by, he wasn't impressed either. Like all Bobigny natives, Mystic had known Digger from birth. He was a naughty boy. Not bad, but he liked to challenge a little too much. Where do you stay? Where do you live these days? Are you still at Mrs. Stiles' rooming house? I'm here, I'm there, and everywhere, Digger said with a theatrical wave of his hands. My landlady wasn't fond of my hours and complained regularly and loudly that I tracked mud in all the time. He shook his head. That it? One last question, Mystic said. Where were you 2 nights ago, Digger? His eyes widened in shock. Mystic, I did not take Reggie's body. I gave that up years ago.
Ooh, what does that mean? He doesn't do it anymore. All right, move along.
Voodoo Incorporated. Yeah, I couldn't think of a title that had dead in it. You think he took Reggie, don't you? Digger doesn't have an alibi, Elias said in the privacy of Mystic's sheriff's vehicle. And what about the cabin? I think he's the one living there. Mystic smiled at the impassioned tone of the man who this morning had barely remembered Bobigny. Digger had his secrets, and Mystic needed to know them. Marguerite would conduct the next interview. Digger was right about one thing, Elias said. Heidi Couture isn't well. Mystic raised one eyebrow. What did you see? A shadow on her liver. I glimpsed it when she walked past me. Without her permission, I didn't push. He lifted his chin. I have rules. As we all must. Mystic's voice activated the car's system, and Emmanuel answered. Have you learned anything new? We haven't found Reggie, if that's what you mean. Lux came home. Marguerite is driving him through town, hoping to draw Reggie out. I'm doing the same with Kelsey. We were about to break for dinner. After, Mystic said, all of you return to the Couture plantation and do a sweep of the grounds. I can't shake the idea that if something was strong enough to pull him away from Lux, it likely was his wife. A warning, she is very angry with him. She may be unpredictable. Mystic briefed him on the cabin and the conversation with Digger. Tell Marguerite to have a conversation with him and see what she can learn. Well, my father went to school with them, Emmanuel shared. As the handyman, he'd have easy access to shovels and tools. Too bad Reggie didn't bleed. Then we could test the shovels for blood. I'll call my dad to see what he can tell us. After Mystic disconnected, Elias said, "You didn't believe Digger either." Pride was in his voice. "What good will it do your deputy to talk to his father? Was he there when the body was stolen?" Mystic chuckled. "You've lived in big cities then? In small towns like this, there's little privacy. More so in Bobigny." Elias made a disapproving sound. "It sounds a bit horrible." "It's a small price to pay for acceptance." When Elias began to question him, Mystic raised his hand to silence as his next call was answered. "Voodoo Incorporated, this is Molly. How may I help you?" the cheery voice asked. "This is Mystic from the Bobigny Sheriff's Office. I need to see Miss Pureheart." "One moment." Silence was the hold music. Less than a minute later, the receptionist returned. "The Peddler's Market, 1 hour." Mystic sat at Edna Pureheart's table, better known as Eddie, wearing his favorite suit. Her favorite wine had been poured, and a single hibiscus bloom sat in a crystal bud vase on her setting. He smiled, standing as the woman of infinite beauty and power entered the small restaurant. "Ma chère," he said, taking her hand and bringing it to his lips. "It has been far too long." "Pierre-Luc," warmth permeated her voice. "The sign said today was going to be exceptional, and here you are." She looked down at her setting, then plucked the flower. "You spoil me." The conversation was light and playful through the first glass of wine and placing orders. When the waiter receded like the tide, Eddie crossed her arms on the table and smiled. "You've kept me waiting long enough, Pierre-Luc. What is this need of yours to see me?" "A body has been stolen from his grave in Bobigny. His soul had not crossed over and reclaimed his body, bringing it home. Earlier today, he disappeared." "Well, perhaps he is seeking a look," she said. "I don't see a reason to worry." He was at the home of the Lux, in the cellar, while preparations were being made to return the body. Mystic did not share about Kelsey leaving. It was not relevant. Whether Reggie left on his own or not, something prevented his return. "Why come to me?" she said coyly. Eddie Pureheart succeeded where so many had failed. She had taken her religion mainstream with her business, Voodoo Incorporated. "His right hand was moved," Mystic said. Her good mood hardened. "Do not insult me, Pierre-Luc. You know we don't use human bones in our ceremonies." "Perhaps you do not," Mystic said, "but there are others who are not as enlightened. Have you heard of anyone in the market for the right hand of a particular man?" Eddie sat taller, her chest expanding as her presence did the same. "The name of this particular man?" "Reginald Couture." Her nostrils flared. Mystic did not have to use his talent to know Eddie had a connection to Reggie. And she knew that he knew. "It isn't what you think." He took her hand and caressed it. "What do I think?" She pulled her hand back and tucked it protectively in her lap. In the silence they sat, their gazes connected, each waiting for the other. Mystic broke the stalemate. "Did you know him in life?" "I did. We were business acquaintances." The answer surprised Mystic. Where did business interest overlap between the perfumer and Louisiana's most modern voodoo priestess? Eddie was not satisfied with the result. Her attempt to shield her annoyance behind professional decorum would have worked with anyone but him. "Ma chère." The waiter arrived, his arms laden with delicacies. A table filled with savory dishes sat between them. Neither lifted a fork. As the sound of the other diners grew to deafening, it was Eddie who ended the standoff. "Do we stay or do we part? I leave it to you, Pierre-Luc." Eddie Pureheart was one of only 2 women Mystic could not resist. No, there would be no walking away this night. "You win, ma chère, for now." Dawn rises. The next morning, Mystic stopped at his suite of rooms to change from his suit to a fresh uniform. He stopped at the bakery for beignets before meeting with his deputies in the small storefront office to exchange information. Emmanuel and Marguerite searched the Couture estate with both luminaires. There had been no sight, sound, or indication Reggie had returned. Emmanuel slumped in his chair. We looked everywhere, Mystic. Root cellars, barn lofts, storage sheds. I canvassed the town, Bertram, the night shift deputy, said. I talked to everyone and distributed more missing body posters. The last anyone reported seeing Reggie was yesterday when he followed Luxie into the office. Gerard said he and Marie would keep an eye out as they worked. He came in just after midnight to report no progress. Honestly, Mystic, it's like Reggie just got swallowed up. Can that happen? Elias stood in the doorway, his well-coiffed person doing little to disguise his sleepless nights. Can he just poof, be gone? Not the way you're thinking, Mystic explained. If his soul had crossed over, his corporal body would remain. It would explain why he's not seeking a Lux. Marguerite, did you talk with Digger? I did, she said. I had some success. He overheard Mrs. Couture arguing with Eddie Pureheart the morning after Reggie died. He heard enough to understand that Reggie had promised Eddie something and that Mrs. Couture was not going to comply. Mrs. Couture became very angry. She slapped Eddie. Emmanuel whistled low and long. Mystic agreed. He and the powerful woman enjoyed a special relationship, equally matched as they were. Anyone who dares slap Eddie Pureheart courts danger herself. Mystic, Digger said Reggie was not on the estate grounds. He was certain. He still could have done it, Elias chimed in, taking a chair as if he belonged. My cadaver contact goes by Digger. His name is Digger. He's living at that cabin. The number was from a burner phone, Emmanuel said. It traced back to no one. Not a surprise, Mystic said. Any news from the widow Heidi or her brother? Marguerite took a deep breath. The brother, Mr. Sine, returned to the house near midnight. He berated us for disturbing his sister and tried throwing us off the property. We assured him that we had her permission. Mystic, I didn't get the impression his concern was for his sister. At least, not his first concern. Emmanuel, Mystic asked, did you hear anything? Emmanuel shook his head. The pair seemed to speak often near the bar in the parlor, but it was all so generic, sickeningly polite. It didn't feel real. Did you get anything, Marguerite? The man is a talker, she said. Mr. Stein's desire to have us off the property was genuine. He didn't want us anywhere near his sister. He smelled earthy, she continued. He explained that he rented the old costume shop and spent the day cleaning it out. If you remember, the lower floor is partially below ground. I guess everything was left behind, and the clothing had been stored down there. It was now mildewy. What he said was the truth. Elias looked between his deputies, his eyes resting on each for a moment. His gaze settled on Bertram. What's your talent? Bertram rankled. He began to rise, but Mystic's hand kept him sitting. He is new to our ways, Bertram. He meant no offense. Elias frowned. How did I offend you? It was a question. What is your talent? Bertram asked spitefully. Because Mystic wouldn't let you sit there if you didn't have one and it wasn't useful to us. Blinking, retreating, Elias eventually muttered, It's personal. Now you understand, Mystic said gently. Marguerite, please find Digger and ask him to look for Reggie. She stood and put her hat on. I'm sorry, Mystic. I should have thought to ask him yesterday. Emmanuel, ask Gerard and Marie to take the Luxus through town in the wagon. Perhaps having them more visible will draw Reggie. Consider it done, he said, rising and joining Marguerite. Bertram, please find a place where we can bring everyone together for coffee. We need to draw this to an end, whether or not we have Reggie's body. And we have reached the deliberation.
Man, I don't know. But I do know. I know a lot, but I
You
don't
know
think
it?
I know it all. I got to put it together.
So Mystic has his hands full with Reggie and his body snatcher on the loose. He needs our help to give Reggie the rest he deserves. So here are the suspects for who is the boss of the body snatching.
Before we do this, in the last episode, I saw the name Juan. It is not Juan. It is Jean. And I kept going,
Juan.
we get to meet Juan.
It is Juan.
It is Juan?
Juan Claude Perez.
I could have sworn you were pronouncing it as Jean-Claude.
Juan. I don't know. I wasn't listening to me. I was too busy trying to read.
I could have sworn you were saying Jean-Claude. And I was like, oh, Jean. Actually, no, it didn't occur to me right now until I looked at that. And I went, Juan.
Well,
Who
it's
is
really
Juan?
only one letter different. It says Juan. Claude, get it? Spanish and French. Spanish
I get it. Real clever. But nonetheless, I wonder, now I'm curious if he did call him Jean or if I made that up.
I don't know. As you know, I am prone to butcher some names.
All pronunciations are approximate.
Can we put that as a disclaimer? That's all pronunciation. That's wonderful. I love that.
But anyway, yeah,
Okay.
I'm not entirely sure, but we'll find out here.
So here are the clues and facts. Within hours of his burial, Reggie Couture's body was snatched by 3 men. One was a talker. The other 2 did the work in silence.
Huh.
Reggie recovered his body off the slab of a teaching hospital 2 hours away. He took the coat and pants of Dr. Sanford Elias and walked back to Bobigny.
That he did. Which, there's no way he put the clothes on himself, right?
Why not?
Why would Reggie care?
Oh.
He can't feel it.
I didn't think of that.
Well, I didn't want to mention it in the last episode, but I was like, well, someone had to put the clothes on him, right? He wouldn't care.
In my first
He's
draft,
dead.
In my first draft, he only had the lab coat, and then I was like, well, that's a little indecent. We'll put pants on him too.
No, my thought was, man, this guy doesn't seem like the kind of guy who could put clothes on.
Well, he did.
Yeah, apparently. Which, by the way, this is he wouldn't care. But then my other thought was like, he still has like a soul. He still is aware of the world he's in.
Yeah.
Maybe he knows that's indecent and it's not socially correct. Maybe he's dead and being dead isn't socially correct. So maybe it doesn't matter at all.
Can you imagine a body walking?
Can you imagine a body getting dressed because he didn't want to be naked in public? Not that he's going to be cold. He can't feel it. He's like, whoops, shield your eyes. He's dead. It's already disgusting that he's walking around.
This is rated G for gentle eyes.
Yeah. I
G
love
for genitalia.
Yep.
All right. So Reggie's right hand was missing. It was cut off at the wrist. There's no obvious reason for the amputation, unlike the superficial damage the body received from the long barefoot walk.
Yes.
Heidi Stein Couture is very angry at her husband, and the reason is not known.
Weird.
Sebastian Stein is the fast-talking businessman who moved in with Reggie and Heidi. He says he folded the business. Paperwork says he lost it and is broke. He is reportedly looking into buying a new business and has rented the old costume shop.
That guy is interesting.
The scholarly Dr. Sanford Elias admits to contracting for the body from a man who died from emphysema. He claims he buys bodies from a contact named Digger and that he doesn't know where the bodies come from. He claimed the latest one was never delivered.
Interesting.
Juan Claude Perez, a.k.a. Digger, is a handyman for the Coutures and claimed to be fond of both Mr. and Mrs. I wrote the wrong word there.
Mr. and Mrs. Digger. Yeah, he's
Couture.
very fond of his parents.
Mr. and Mrs. C. Oh, no, both Mr. and Mrs. period. Digger evaded answering where he lived, claiming it was here, there, and everywhere. Digger denies taking Reggie's body, saying he gave that up years ago.
He used to do it.
Edna Eddie Pureheart claims she had a business with Reggie, but she wouldn't elaborate. Digger heard her arguing with Heidi Couture the morning after Reggie's death. The argument ended with Heidi slapping Eddie.
Crazy. Couldn't imagine why.
One cabin on the Couture property had been lived in recently. Items were found that were positively identified as coming from Reggie's coffin. Heidi, Sebastian, and Digger were all at the grave site for the funeral. So, who should Mystic look at for disturbing Reggie's rest?
Sebastian. Okay, here's my 401k. I believe in my heart of hearts that Edna was sleeping with Reggie. Edna confronted Heidi about it and was like, "Look, this man was my lover," or whatever. And Heidi was like, "How dareth thou? Slappeth." Or no, it was Reggie promised her something. Was Reggie dead at the time that Heidi slapped Eddie?
Yes, it was the morning after he died.
Okay, then that was you owe me. Reggie promised me stuff, and Heidi was like, "You bitch," slap. Sebastian is poisoning his sister. I honestly don't know why. Probably so that he can take full control of the company. And he stole the right hand of Reggie because he clearly is not good with business, and he was hoping to steal some of that luck off of Reggie. Because he failed his own business, he's trying to start another, and he's using his current business, the couture of perfumes, and he wants to not bomb it. So yeah, that's what I think happened.
Okay.
Digger I honestly don't know what other crime Digger is supposedly guilty of. He seems like a pretty chill guy to me. Like, he might have used to have been. I don't think he was the guy who dug him up. I think Stan did that. Why do I keep calling him Stan? Sebastian. Maybe it's because of the actor, Sebastian Stan. I don't know. I just got Stan stuck real hard in my head.
Well, his name is Sebastian Stein.
Oh, that's probably it. Plus, I have a professor named Stan right now. Yeah, he's a character, but I have Stan on the mind, apparently. Anyway, it's a good old Sebastione. I don't know who the other two are. Just hired help, probably. Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe Digger is one of them, but Digger seems like a talker.
You ready to go into the big reveal?
Yeah, let's reveal my awesome accurateness.
Dead end. Bertram stood sentry duty outside the private room at the Blue Note. The owner, Cece, was acting as their private waitress, pouring coffee to go with the light afternoon stack. Heidi Couture sat at the head of the table. She alternated between ignoring and glaring at the woman across from her, Eddie Pureheart. Sebastian Stein sat at his sister's right hand, putting fruit and small sandwiches on her plate as if she were a child. Mystic sat to Heidi's left, with Elias next to him. The last seat at the table was filled by a very uncomfortable Digger. Marguerite stood inside the door. Emmanuel was next to her with a protective arm around Kelsey Luminaire. Pierre-Luc, this is rather dramatic, even for you. Eddie lifted disapproving eyes to the new widow. There are other places I prefer to be. As do I, Heidi said venomously. I don't see how this helps find Reggie. Really, Lieutenant, do you need to subject my sister to this strain? Stein covered Heidi's hands with his own. Gold digger, Digger muttered and reached for a Danish. It is time to end this silliness and allow Reggie to rest. Mystic looked at each at the table in turn, his gaze scalding as he read their auras. Ma chère, there's no room for deception. I ask you directly, what was your business with Reggie Couture? Heidi hissed. Mystic turned to his neighbor. You have the answer, madame? That woman tricked Reggie into selling his body. She spat each word. Due upon his death. I declined to turn my husband over to her. He entered into an agreement, Eddie declared. She withdrew a document from her purse and laid it on the table. The contract is fully executed and legally binding. Heidi crossed her arms stubbornly. Any contract Reggie signed is null and void on his death. Mystic raised his hands, interrupting the women. "A share. What did Reggie receive in return?" Eddie pressed her lips together as though physically keeping the secret inside. It was only with Mystic applying pressure that she capitulated. It was a potion. Heidi threw up her hands. "A cure? That's what he supposedly bought? He's dead. It failed." "Not for him," Eddie sniped. "For you." Hand to her throat, Heidi lost her coloring. "I'm not sick." "I'm afraid you are," Elias said in an often used voice of sympathy and reality. "I suspected the first day we met and verified today. Your liver is failing. You are very ill." "My sister is just fine," Sebastian declared, moving Heidi's glass of wine closer to her. "Did you deliver it?" Mystic asked. Eddie swung her head slowly. "I only accept payment first, and this is a perfect example why." "Share," Mystic said, speaking only to Eddie. "We are talking about saving a life." "What are you talking about, a potion?" Elias bellowed. "She needs real treatment. She needs dialysis." Eddie snorted inelegantly. "My potion contains everything needed to heal her liver, save one: belief. No medicine can cure unless the patient believes it can. Your husband," she said to Heidi, "he believed enough to trade his body for your life." Elias turned to Eddie. "Why do you want his body?" "I don't," she said. "Not specifically, but everything has a cost. The bigger the ask, the bigger the price." "What about his Midas powers?" Elias asked. "Doesn't that make his body valuable?" Eddie looked at the accomplished doctor as though he weren't quite bright. "You know nothing of talents. Do you know the story?" she asked with a tilt of her head. "Midas was cursed. Perhaps Reggie could have been if he wasn't as wise as he was. He tempered his success with generosity and kindness. One thing for certain, Reggie's talent wasn't in his touch." "Well, I don't understand," Sebastian Stein said. "Every project Reggie took on made money, big money. How can you say he didn't have the touch?" "You're being too literal. Reggie had," Heidi searched for the right word, "an intuition, a sense of opportunity where it lied. And it wasn't just that. He worked hard. He researched, he invested, he learned. Reggie had his setbacks, yes, but he rose above them. What he had was intangible. It certainly wasn't in his little finger." Sebastian stared at his sister, dumbfounded. "You said he had the Midas touch."
I read that line very differently in my head. I read it as Sebastian stared at her sister dumbfoundedly. "You said he had that touch. You said it."
That's what it said. "You said he had the Midas touch."
"You said it."
"That's where I heard it," Digger chimed in. "You were walking outside my window." "Your window?" Mystic echoed. "Which window is that?" "The one in the old groom's room in the equipment barn." Digger's cheeks flushed pink. "Mr. C said I could stay there after I was thrown out of the rooming house. He didn't charge me rent in exchange for keeping an eye on things." Heidi furrowed her brows. "Why didn't you say anything? You could have had one of the cabins." "I didn't want to be a problem." She looked at him, not as an employer, but as a friend. "Never. When we go home, you're picking a cabin, and you'll take your meals in the main house with me." "Not so fast, Heidi." Sebastian leaned in, blocking his sister's view of Digger. "You can't just invite a stranger into your house." She lifted her chin defiantly. "Digger is no stranger to me." "Wait a minute." Elias looked around the table. "Then who's living in that cabin now? Did we miss someone?" "Who are you?" Sebastian glared at Elias. "Doesn't matter. Heidi, you've had a shock with Reggie's death. You aren't in your right mind." "Oh, you were right about the cabin," Digger said. I took it upon myself to stake it out, but the sneak didn't come back last night. He bit into a cheese pastry. Mystic shook his head. I may just disagree with that, Digger. Tell me, do you know where Reggie is? Yes, sir. I felt him on my way in. I told Deputy Emmanuel he's over on Martha Washington Street. Digger helped himself to an eclair. He's in that old costume store. Sebastian surged to his feet. His chair clattered to the floor. I object! Elias was nearly as quick. Somebody take me there. I need to see. Mystic rose slowly. Emmanuel, take Sebastian Stein into custody on charges of grave robbing and body snatching. Heidi looked up at her brother. What did you do, Sebastian? Nothing, Heidi. Whatever they say, don't believe them. He pleaded, even as he was defiant. You believed it, didn't you? You believed Reggie had the Midas touch, and you had his hand cut off? She folded over. I think I'm going to be sick. Miss Heidi, Mystic said, how did you know about his hand? The musicians, she panted, were talking about it outside my window. Elias knelt next to her. Just breathe. You're hyperventilating. Heidi took a few shallow breaths and then sought her brother's face. Tell me you didn't dig up my husband and cut off his hand, Sebastian. Tell me this is a mistake. It is a mistake, he all but shouted. You can't believe them. They're all against me. It was you who used the cabin, Mystic said. You kept the tokens and gifts given to Reggie. Sebastian fought against Emmanuel's hold. I was saving them, to put them back. He was not, Marguerite said. He sold most of it to a pawn shop over a few towns. The owner identified Mr. Stein and will provide security footage. It wasn't all me, Sebastian declared. Digger and Dax blackmailed me for half. Digger froze, his mouth full of cream puff. Not me, he mumbled. Not you, Mystic said. He put his hat on and stepped away from the table. Elias, stay with Heidi. I'll stay with her, Eddie said, draping her arm around the other woman's shoulder. Go find your body, Pierre-Luc. He pressed his fist to his heart. Thank you, love. Lexi, please join us for a visit to the costume shop. You can't go in there, Sebastian shouted after him. It's private property. You need a warrant. Digger led Mystic, Elias, Bertram, and Kelsey into a narrow alley. There, he said, scratching his arms. He's so close, I itch. A brick wall was worn with age, but solid as the day it was laid. A small window with bars was set only inches above the pavement. A steel door set smooth in the wall was marred with marks from boots. A large window was next to it, also barred. Above were two windows. Neither had bars, but were unreachable without a ladder. How do we get in? Elias asked, stepping backward into Kelsey. The door is solid. Should we go back for keys? Kelsey stepped aside, out of Elias's way. A loud thump came from above. The large window framed a one-handed man in a lab coat. Reggie, Mystic exclaimed. We've been looking for you. Reggie's second burial had less fanfare than the first. Father Amon had a new casket prepared. It was waiting next to the grave, complete with Reggie's right hand, which was found in the costume store. Elias was fascinated with Reggie, who was oblivious to the doctor's poking and prodding. Kelsey and her grandfather stood next to the coffin, their heads together. We're ready, her grandfather said. Reggie looked away from the Lexus for the first time since they freed him. He turned to his wife and fell jerkily to his knees, his lifeless eyes pleading. I'm so angry at you, Reggie. Those damn cigars killed you. I told you they would. Why couldn't you give them up? She asked, her voice breaking. Why couldn't you choose me? Why couldn't you choose us? Reggie lifted his arms and pressed his remaining hand to his heart. I know you're sorry, she said, but it doesn't do either of us a damn bit of good. When the milky eyes stared at her, Heidi broke down. She wrapped her arms around her husband's shoulders. I love you too, you old fool. When she released him, Emmanuel and Bertram lifted Reggie to his feet and then settled him into the casket. Old Lux stepped next to Reggie's head, and Kelsey did the same at his feet. Just like we practiced, Old Lux said. Using your hands
You
isn't...
made up this character. You can't cry at his second death.
I can't what, his second death?
You can't cry at his second death.
I'm not crying. My voice is just breaking.
All right,
I've been
sure.
talking-
There's a lot of dust in the air, too, isn't there, in this old bedroom?
My voice really is cracking. Using your hands isn't strictly necessary, but it's the easiest way to start visualizing. Feel the energy flowing through you. Don't try to contain it, but direct it. Do you feel it? Yes, Kelsey said, her voice trembling and then growing excited. Oh, wow, I really feel it. Now, Old Lux ordered, and the pair pantomimed, drawing a box. The lines of glittering light followed their hands. Old Lux reached for the seam, and, as he pulled it open, Reggie's spirit rose from his body. It wasn't the cancer-riddled man of his death, but one in his prime. Reggie, Heidi whispered in awed. He moved his lips, and everyone understood what he said. I know, Heidi answered. I love you too. His spirit smiled, and then began to circle, gracefully flying around them until, in a flash of light, he was gone. Fingers pressed to her lips, Heidi stared into the twilight. Father Raymond, assisted by the deputies, reconsecrated the ground and buried Reggie's body for the last time. This is for you, Eddie said, holding out a small cut glass decanter to Heidi. 5 drops, 3 times a day. No alcohol. Heidi stared at it and then slowly shook her head. I can't give you his body. I'm sorry, I just can't. I know, Eddie said. I'll accept something else in trade. I understand you're very good with plants. Digger, now promoted to chauffeur, which came with an apartment over the garage, followed the women as they walked arm in arm back to the car. Old Lux kept an arm around his exhausted granddaughter. Good night, everyone. I'll be at work on Monday, she called from under his shoulder. I look forward to it, Kelsey, Mystic said. She smiled tiredly. Call me Lexi. Mystic clapped Elias on the shoulder. Heading back to Shreveport? For now, he said, but I'll be back. My cousin said I can stay with her. I'd like to spend time in Bobigny. Maybe open a small clinic, eventually. Mystic nodded in approval. Welcome home. The end. You really nailed this one, even to the subtext part.
I missed some things. I thought the relationship with Eddie and Reggie was romantic, which honestly, the first time I thought that, I was like, that doesn't sound right. That doesn't sound like Reggie.
It could have been, but you totally nailed that Sebastian was poisoned. Didn't kill his sister because this is anything but murder.
I got that right off the bat in the first episode because she was like angry and then she drank his tea and then she just felt, what was it? She felt more tired all of a sudden, and I was like, weird how her energy flipped so quickly. And this creepy possessive brother is there.
Yep, the creepy possessive brother. Maybe he wasn't trying to kill her, but he certainly was trying to incapacitate her, so as you pointed out, he could take over everything.
Yep. Which, I mean, I knew that was going to be his goal. It was all very, like, the other thing that really pointed it out is every character is very spiritual and cares a lot more about community than greed. And this is a character who very clearly did not care about community, but put on a facade of caring.
There's even a little bit of question if he helped Reggie's death along, because he was very sick. But, part of Heidi's thing was that...
I noticed that. There was like... There's almost a little hint.
There's a little hint,
little flavor.
But it's kind of not definitive.
Not definitive. Yeah, but still very well written.
So you want to hear a little bit about body snatching?
I would love to. I would love to know, is this still a crime?
A crime, yes. Is it a crime that's often committed?
That's, I guess,
not anymore.
Yippee!
So resurrection men, aka body snatchers, practice their illegal trade here in the States until the mid to late 1800s. This was the period when medical training was expanding, and so there was a need for cadavers for students to learn on. Body snatchers stole bodies from fresh graves and sold them to medical schools or to instructors. The trade went by the wayside as states passed anatomy acts or bone bills that allowed medical schools to legally acquire unclaimed bodies and also allow people to donate their bodies. But here is a pretty cool story from our point of view from congressionalcemetery.org. So this is a cemetery in Washington, D.C. So here is the story of the resurrection man, Dr. George Christian. So on the night of December 12th, 1873, police officers noticed a suspicious carriage sitting at Washington Circle, Washington, D.C. After midnight, an officer approached the woman sitting inside, and she explained she was waiting for her husband, who was conducting business. Later, they saw one man approach the buggy and place a spade inside. Then another man appeared and placed a muddy shovel inside, before the three set off towards New Hampshire Avenue and Boundary Street. The officers pursued them, suspecting they must have stolen goods on board, but instead found grave robbing tools. Officers investigated nearby Homestead Cemetery and found the body of Thomas Fletcher inside a large canvas bag near the fence. The night of Dr. Christian's arrest, a diary was found inside the carriage along with grave robbing tools, illustrating the extent of his resurrectionist business. Excerpts from this diary were published in the newspaper and later used at his trial. So Christian had arrangements with doctors that would be in like asylums and poorhouses, where patients often died penniless and sometimes without families. These were potential victims for him to later dig up at the city's potter fields. So those are just fields where poor or unknown people were buried in unmarked graves. They exist all over the country. Obviously not used like that anymore, but back in the day. So notes in Christian's diary describe various doctors going out resurrecting with him or sending janitors and hospital stewards to help him as assistants. One local doctor offered Christian and his partner $15 each per body. In addition to supplying nearby med schools with cadavers, Christian corresponded with doctors at schools in Virginia, Michigan, and Ohio. Their letters spoke of the best ways to pack bodies in whiskey barrels and prices per cadaver. One Michigan doctor wrote that he'd pay Christian $25 per body, but then sell them to the students for $40. So in 1873, what was $25 then is now worth about $635 today. This was not a cheap business by any means. For more on this story and more details, I have the link in the show notes, but it's congressionalcemetery.org. Yeah, kind of a shocking but very cool story. So now, a little bit about me. Like you, I'm not one thing. I'm a writer, I'm an engineer, I'm a wife, and I'm a mother. What's first on the list depends on the day. Beyond the title that I claim, I'm a person who loves learning and thoroughly enjoys a good puzzle. I'm creative and I get bored very easily. I hold a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering from Case Western Reserve University and a Master of Science in Civil Engineering from Cleveland State University, which gives me absolutely no background in writing, but I do it anyway. Writing mysteries and engineering isn't as different as you think. Both require using logic and process to get from the starting problem to a solution. Find me at tgwolff.com. Well, and here too. Okay, to wrap up. This wraps up this episode of Mysteries to Die For. Support our show by subscribing, telling a mystery lover about us, giving us a 5-star review. As I said, check out our website, M2. Dude, I said a letter 2 again. M2, D4, podcast.com for links to this season's authors and all of our episodes. Check out our social media on Instagram and Facebook. The anthology for the second half of the season will release in early November. Add it to your Christmas, Hanukkah, and To Be Read lists. Mysteries to Die For is hosted by TG Wolff and Jack Wolff. Have You Seen This Body? Was written by TG Wolff. Music and production are by Jack Wolff. Episode art by TG Wolff. Listen or join us next week for Toe Tag, which is the first chapter in a fresh release in the mystery, crime, or thriller genre. Then come back in 2 weeks for our Halloween story, where menacing is our murderless crime. It's Audubon's Ghost by Margaret S. Hamilton. All right, Jack, take us out.